Make sure on their microphones. Good evening, everyone. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, be advised that a notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board, town hall, and mailing to the officially designated newspapers a list of the meeting dates annually, indicating that this meeting would take place at Town Hall at 7 p.m. on Monday, July 17th, 2020.
No, August 7th.
Sorry, August 7th, 2023.
Chandru Harjani,
Here.
Amy Lawrence,
Here.
Gary Rosen,
Here.
Richard Taylor,
Here.
Joseph Caulfield,
Here.
Vice Chair Joseph Glad,
Here.
Chair Craig Kevin.
Here. I think you'll first notice this evening, this is not Rob Simon. This is John Kaplan, who's filling in for Rob, even though the name tag may show otherwise. We have two sets of minutes this evening to approve, with no memorialization. So for the minutes of 6/5/23, are there any corrections or changes to those minutes? Who's eligible for? That's
Everyone.
everyone, great. In that case, can I have a motion to adopt?
Move approval minutes 6/5/23.
A second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Next up, we have the minutes of 7/17/23. What do we have on those?
Chandru, Amy, Regina, Joe, Jessica, Craig.
Any corrections or changes? Otherwise, can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll move approval.
Thank you, maybe a second.
I can second.
Thank you, Chandra. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Right, we move into our applications. First up this evening, we have a matter carried from 6/5/23, application for calendar 39/14/23, David and Lori Schlanger, 86 Slope Drive. With those people involved in this case, come on down.
The only thing is just that they were initially heard on March 20th. I don't know if,
I think I listened to the,
I think we talked about this last time.
Yeah.
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 I don't think so.
Okay, so Danny, you were previously sworn.
I was.
Mr. Schlanger?
Yes,
Okay, you were not.
I was
so-
not.
Right, so. we're
I was out of
swearing
town
you in.
last time.
Okay.
Just raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in today's proceeding be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Just state your name for the record.
David Schlanger.
Thank you.
Your credentials have already been accepted by the board, so please proceed.
Okay. If I may, I'd like to hand out an exhibit that I didn't have last time, so I'd like to mark it A1.
We have A1, mark A2. I've got it.
Okay, let's go
marked
A2.
March 20.
I don't know what that is. Thank you. Thanks. So the first page is a rendering, thank you, that we did on the computer that I tried to show from the streetscape, the proposed fence and garage. And the second page is we had the opportunity to maybe do a little bit of research and find some examples of other homes that have front-facing garages in the R3.
So do you think there's a last one? Yeah, the last one's for sale.
So this application, we modified it a little bit from the last meeting, which is we reduced the height significantly, and we've reduced the width significantly, and we moved it over as much as we could. So the variance for the side yard setback is just about 6 inches, and that's because of the shape of the lot lines. And we could avoid it if we were to twist the garage a little bit, but we felt like that would be more noticeable to have it on an angle than slightly 6 inches off in the back right corner of the garage. So that's one variance, the fact that it's we're asking for a side yard setback of about 6 inches or so. The second variance, which is the more difficult one, is the fact that it's a front-facing garage in R3, which is in part prohibited. So last time I didn't have quite the knowledge to be able to have surveyed and canvassed the neighborhood. So here in front of you, you see about 21 homes in the R3 that have, for reasons that I'm not sure, but do have front facing. But the interesting thing about this application that I think it's unique is the fact that you are allowed a structure. So we could build a structure, it just can't be a garage. And so what we did was hide it with this 6-foot-high privacy fence, set it about 8 feet back, and we've designed the garage doors so they don't look like anything. They don't look like garage doors. The windows, we'll paint them white.
Sorry to interrupt you. You could have a garage, it just couldn't be facing forward.
Yes,
Yeah, so you could have a structure, it could be a garage.
Right.
It's really the garage doors being visible from the street.
so talking to Mr. Schlanger, I hadn't thought about this, which is, you're allowed a structure, could be significantly larger than we're proposing. And there are some in the neighborhood that, as of right, have been built, and they're much, much bigger, much more imposing. And so, we're hoping that you find that this is small in scale and won't cause any negative impact to the neighborhood. And I don't know if you want to say a few words about.
Yeah, look, just a little bit of background on my wife and I. We've lived in Short Hills for 33 years. We lived in this home for 28 years. And pretty much from the day we bought the home, we've been lovingly maintaining it. It's a 75-year-old home. It's one of the original homes in the neighborhood. And I think I'm pretty proud of the fact that if you look at it from the street today, it probably looks the way it did 75 years ago, except I'm hoping the landscaping is far better than it was back then. I think what we're trying to do now is really consistent with what we've done since we put the house up, which is to make improvements that maintain the character of the neighborhood. And in fact, I appreciate all of you giving your time to maintain the character of our community. Like I said, I'm a very long-term resident here, and unlike a lot of empty nesters, we have no plans on leaving. We love it here. But the house we have has an inadequate garage. It's really a garage and a half. We've been leaving the car out in the driveway for 28 years. It's difficult logistically, there's ice in the morning when you go out to go to work early, walking in and out of the rain. But more importantly, we're always uncomfortable with a car in the street given the amount of car theft there is in town, and it's just begging to be stolen. In fact, now that I'm not working quite so much, we spend 4 or 5 months out of town, and every time I come back, I'm wondering if the car's going to be there. So we'd really love to find a solution, a garage, to get the car off the street. We appreciate the board's effort to maintain the character of the neighborhood, and I understand that there is I don't know if it's a regulation, but certainly some regulation about having front-facing garages. I would just ask you to consider the fact that we found 20 of them in driving around for half an hour. There's many of them in town, in our zone. And the ones in our zone really have made no effort to try to make them aesthetically fit into the neighborhood. Unlike what Mr. Dubonnet, who's very creative, put together, we're trying to hide it as much as possible. So I would ask you to just consider this in the light of the fact that there are many, many exceptions. We could have a structure. We're really just talking about the garage doors. And we've made every effort to make the garage doors not visible, and it is as small a structure as possible. So I don't really have much more to say other than, we'd ask the board to consider all the facts, including the fact that many exceptions have been granted over time that weren't quite as thoughtful in trying to maintain the character of the neighborhood. Did I miss anything, Danny?
No, other than for, of course, the Schlangers or the neighbors in the rear yard, if we were to take this structure, because we have a big piece of property, take this structure and move it to the back, it would be, I think, significantly more impactful to the neighbors in a negative way than tucked in where we're hoping to put it. So in this case, I think by allowing it where it is, and of course being able to control its height and its colors, and it's being hidden with this fence, that it may be a better solution than with it right.
Also, we did put a patio up many years ago in the town. As part of the patio approval process, made us put a bunch of seepage tanks back there. I know they're trying to put an extension to the driveway and cover up more ground. To put it further back is not really practical either. So this is the one practical spot we could think of. Again, we're trying to make it as aesthetically pleasing as possible. In fact, I don't think the dimensions are visible on this photo that Mr. Dubonnet put together, but it's 100 feet back from the street.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's very far back from the street.
Speak to your setback issue.
Setback issue, so it's about, give me a second. It is 12 feet for accessory structure is what's required that you have, and we're seeking 11.375. Like I said, it's about 6-inch violation, and the reason is, and like I said, the lot line is slightly tapered, so if I maintain the garage straight, the back portion of the garage is in violation of the 6.5 inches. We could avoid it by twisting it a little bit, and then we could form, but we felt like the twist would be more noticeable than the 6 inches in the landscape. So again, it's a variance that we could have eliminated.
Why can't the whole structure be over 600?
It can be, he just happens to have an existing gorgeous stone wall that exists, and so the concept is, okay, let's extend that stone wall. So yes, you're correct that this whole thing could shift to the left.
Yeah.
And maybe remove this wall. So absolutely, that could be avoided.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah, I do.
Good.
Thanks. Thanks so much. And as always, thanks for coming to the board to apply for a permit. So how far back will the gate be? Because there's also going to be a 6-foot gate that opens, correct? How far from the street is that gate located?
The gate is 100 feet back from the street,
100 feet from the street. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the garage structure itself?
7 feet back from that, so
7 feet
107.
more.
Sorry, 9 feet back from that.
And then of these houses that you identified, how many of them have detached garages that face the front?
Have to go through pictures and look. I wasn't really, when we went out, you can see there are a few of them. So if you look at number 3, that's an attached garage.
How far is number 3 back from the street?
Not very far. I mean, I
Sure
never
about
measured it.
Detached.
Yeah, because I know the house on Slope Drive. The driveway goes
It
down,
was 282 Hart.
goes down the hill.
This was a hard.
That's number 3, you said.
Yeah, number 3, it's on Hartshorn. Yeah, it's kind of like it's a relatively new house. The driveway's fairly steep. I don't think I'm not sure, but you know, and it's not as far back as ours, I don't think.
These are also areas where front-facing garages are conforming.
I thought in R3, there's no allowed front-facing garages.
Well, not if they're existing. So.
This one was built within the last few years.
It's a lot more than that. That house was built.
It's a new house,
Well, no, it's not. That was a rehab, that house.
No,
Some of those
but the garage is a new structure, absolutely is a new
Right,
structure.
but that's been there for quite a long time, that garage for the house.
Probably under 10, I would guess 10 years maybe.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm not that familiar with, many of these houses. You can see number 17 looks detached, but even down on our,
Right, the 17, when was that built, Dan, that house?
That's an old
The
house.
large house, right?
Yeah.
18 something?
Is it historical?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's that one, and then
You know-
about Western.
I don't know, there's one on Slope Drive, which is down the street from us, which is kind of a modern design, so I know it's not a historic house, but, yeah, I can't answer those questions. Literally, we went on a Sunday morning for a drive.
So of these houses, there's 2 that you think are detached?
I honestly don't know. I was just looking for front-facing garages because I've been told that was the issue. I didn't understand it was a detached front-facing garage, it's the front-facing garages. So I could have been wrong about that. I don't know.
James?
And if I may, I'd like to hand out Exhibit A3, which is not a detached garage, but it's an example of an accessory structure lawfully put in, that meets the zoning requirements, that is something that I think is across New Street.
It's across in one.
If I may, just pass it around. What address is that?
I don't know, it's actually, the car's next door here.
I think it's a pool house. But in terms of what's lawfully allowed versus what we're asking for, I think that we would argue would have more negative impact to the streetscape than what we're asking for.
Who took these pictures?
The Schlangers
I
took
did.
the 21 pictures.
I see your tax map, a little difficult to read, but you're telling me all of these are in the R3 zone?
Yes.
That does not endorse face the street, right?
That faces the street, I'm sorry.
When Tony built that, there are doors facing the street.
No, it's a side of the building.
Right.
Right.
What was the address?
The address of that house?
Oh, I don't know.
I think it's Slope Drive.
The Carps may know, but I'm not sure. It's,
60 something.
what's the address of your neighbor? Do you know?
77.
77.
So I guess so the interesting intellectual conversation is, okay, you can have a structure, but you can have a garage door. So, well, we've hidden the garage door, we've hidden it with the fence, we've taken away the look of the garage door. So we're hoping that, we're not looking to set any precedents here, that because of how far it's set back from the street and how it's nestled into there's a slope, so it's kind of nestled into the topography, that it certainly wouldn't open up doors for everybody else to start asking, because every case is a bit different.
How's the fence open up?
It pulls forward.
Manually just opens up.
I was actually hoping we could have put it in an automatic on the door opener.
Any other questions, John?
I don't have any questions.
Anyone else have any questions?
Just, so is there any hardship that,
Yeah, the hardship is, well, we have a car and a half garage, and so they have obviously two, if not more cars. So the hardship is we can't attach it anywhere. We looked at that. And the only other place for it detach is in the backyard that I do believe would be more detrimental to the neighborhood than the people in the rear yard.
can you define for me more specifically what a 1.5 car garage means to you?
It's less than 20. I think his garage is 18 feet wide, so two cars don't fit.
Also, one of the bays is very short because of the prior owners have done some construction on the house. So you really can't have a car other than a very short, like sports car in there. So it's not just the width, it's actually one of the bays is shorter than the other bay.
It's unique because I've looked at every other option to get them a car, get them a place to put it, and I couldn't find another spot unless it's significantly in the rear yard, like in the middle of the rear yard, or a long driveway to the back, which could be done, but that would be significantly more impactful to the neighbors. I believe.
And you don't think you could add on to that garage or
No, I could
modify
go
the-
forward. But I'll be in the front yard setback.
It's a like I said, an old house that has had some construction done on it already, so it's not an easy house to do work on. We last year did a bit of a kitchen addition, and it was an architectural and engineering, catastrophe, frankly. Look, and I can't, to answer your question, I mean, I'd be lying to you if I said leaving the car on the driveway is a hardship, but we live in a beautiful home that's very valuable on a beautiful street with a beautiful piece of property. I'd like to be able to put my car in the garage. Right, that's all.
How accurate would you say the scale is in this picture?
My rendering?
Yeah,
I felt very comfortable with the scale of it.
because your gate's 6 feet high, correct?
Yes.
Pillars are how high?
6 and change, just a few inches above.
Because your structure's 12 feet high.
Yes. But it's set back 9 feet from that.
Right, and you think that is going to diminish it that much for 9 feet?
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I definitely wanted to create the 3D imaging of it. Yes, our, let's say the top of plate is 8 feet, so we'd be 2 feet above the fence line.
The objective was to have as small a structure as possible. It's not going to have storage or anything. It's really just for a car.
Anything else, board? Any questions from the audience for,
Or comments?
does anyone have any questions? Comments? Anyone like to make a comment? Come on up and introduce yourself, get forward.
But you have to be sworn first. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give tonight to be the truth, whole truth, and the truth?
Yes.
Your name and address for the record, and spell your name, please.
Jeffrey Karp, K-A-R-P, 83 Slope. I'm going to reference my notes here. I spoke at the last
Where do you live in reference to the home?
Right across, where we look at it. I think I said this last time, I'm not really comfortable being here. My wife and I have lived here not 33 years, but in town 25, and in this house for 15 years. And I guess not covering what we did the first meeting, one, we're concerned that this would set a precedent. We also have a garage and a half and would like to have our cars in the garage, but we don't. And I don't think, there's a lot of people in that situation in the neighborhood. I don't know how it would work if the fence was part of this variance. In other words, if the next owner said, hey, I want to take down the fence, whether the garage has to come down after that, whether that's something I would have to pursue or how that would play out. This whole process started right as the Schlangers, and once again, I feel terrible being here, but the Schlangers next door neighbor on the side where the garage is being built put their house on the market. And, this is getting very close to their property. And I'm pretty sure they don't know anything about it because it's been on the market for a long time and it just closed, and I think either they or tenants moved in. So, I think they should have a chance to hear about this, and it's kind of just been happening as the move has happened. This is very helpful, but I just got it 2 minutes ago. I'd love to do some due diligence. So I drove around and saw very few houses in our neighborhood that had front facing, and I don't know the rules, whether if they were previously there, they could stay there, but I'd like to make sure all of these are 20 exceptions. And I guess the other thing is this is a want, not a need. When I've been to a couple meetings based on this, because this kept getting canceled, and I sat and listened, and it felt like people were always looking to add an inch or 2 inches or 3 inches, not the whole structure, to try to conform to the existing rules and looking for exceptions. And, we would be staring right at this, and we just would rather not. I think that's all my comments. And I apologize to our neighbors. Sorry.
Thank you.
What? And I guess,
Just come on with the mic.
my wife wanted me to add, we have a half acre. This property is an acre. I think I'm not an architect, but I think there's probably other solutions.
Any other comments regarding this application? Well, please introduce yourself.
Do you swear from testimony about giving transparency, the truthful truth, and the truth?
I do.
Your name and address, spell your name, please.
Jessica Zatz, Z-A-T-Z, 77 Slope Drive. So I'm a neighbor. We've lived in town for 12 years. We actually moved from 165 Hobart. The neighborhood was, it was fine, but we also had a lot of front-facing garages. There was lots of, it wasn't the nicest neighborhood. We were so happy to move over here and love Slope Drive, and just the whole neighborhood's beautiful, and it's consistent, it's uniform. We have a structure way set back from the street with a staircase and shrubbery and a big fence. So I do think that there's a difference between a structure and a garage, and we just would like to keep the neighborhood as it is, or I would. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments regarding this application? In that case, I will close this application to the public and open up the board for deliberation. So, board members, what are your thoughts?
I have a question, just point of clarification. So this variance is not front facing, or is it detached, or is it both? Which is the violation? I'm looking at the ordinance, but it's not in.
Go ahead, no, sorry, go ahead.
Front facing.
Front facing garage.
And you have the side
detached
yard setback.
component of it is not.
Nope.
Very.
Well, it needs the setback. It's required to be 12 feet off the property line. I think it's 11 feet, 6 inches in a small area.
But the detached is not a part of it.
No.
Okay, because I'm just looking at the minutes, it says detached, so, okay, thanks.
Thoughts?
I'll go first.
Sure.
I understand, wanting to be able to park your car in a garage.
But there are a lot of houses in town, these are old homes. There are a lot of houses where people can't even park one car in their garage. That was the case when I bought my house. And we had to rip the whole house down and redo it to even get a car in the garage. And so I understand the concern, but it's, a lot of people have the same issue. I would hate to set a precedent by doing this, that everyone who has the same issue then wants to create the same situation where they put a detached, garage or something, some structure like this to be able to get a car in the garage. And in addition, I'm certainly concerned about the concerns that the neighbors voiced, especially about the house next door, where perhaps the neighbor doesn't even know that this is happening. What's that?
It does get sent to the.
Yes.
It does,
It
okay,
does
well,
get sent to the owner, not to
Right.
the.
well, it's in transition, but I take the point. Yeah, I don't know, the neighbors' concerns, I think, are real concerns. So I would personally, not be in favor of this.
I'll jump in next. So from a C1 perspective, I don't see where this even meets the criteria. We have an oversized lot for the zone, oversized width. So there's no hardship really due to the land. From a C2 perspective, now we get into whether or not, this is really detrimental to the zoning plan and the master plan. And I have to say it absolutely is. To start putting front-facing garages in an area where they're not permitted would be detrimental. So I don't see where this would pass on a C2 prong, either where either the positive and negative criteria have been met. Furthermore, sitting on this board for as many years as I have, I've become rather cynical. And to think that those doors in front of the garage are going to remain closed all the time is, I think, wishful thinking. Often we grant variances here for garages to be added, spaces to be added. Next thing you know, the cars are still sitting in the driveway. So putting a fence in front of the garage, I'm not sure that that's going to solve that problem. Further to what Amy just said, right now we have homes that are nicely spaced in this area where this house is relatively far away from the neighbor's house down the street to the right. And now all of a sudden we're going to have a structure pretty much right on the property line, which is not something that is characteristic of this area. Even the one that was shown in the picture is significantly further away from the property line that was circulated than this would be. This is not an area where you would typically see garages built 11 feet off the property line. Even if this could be managed to be moved over, that there is no side yard setback deviation. So for the reasons of meeting the criteria, I would not support this application.
I'll just jump on that to add that, I'm looking at the map with other houses, in the district that have front-facing garages, but driving up and down slope, especially this side of it, what's the Western, for that side of, Western, there just aren't any other front-facing garages. And I really do think that having one, as much as you could try to hide it with a fence, it's just completely out of character for the neighborhood. So again, I understand the wanting to get the car in the garage, but I don't think it should be at the detriment of messing up the entire streetscape.
I agree with those comments, and the concern I have is, from a precedent perspective, how do we going forward decide whether or not we would allow a detached garage that's front-facing to exist, right? I mean, I think this is done in a tasteful way. I don't know whether the doors will be open or not. I think Greg may be right as to whether people in general, I'm not making any comment about these particular applicants, but maybe the doors will be open or they don't. I think it is well done, but I don't know when the next party comes before us with a detached garage that's front facing, how we say no. What is now we don't have any rule effectively that says that front facing garages can't exist. I don't know what the criteria would be.
I agree with all the comments that have been made, and while I understand it is a hardship not to put your car in it, really, I also live in a very old home with a very low ceiling, and we actually measured cars before we bought them because we knew we couldn't get them in. So, which is a pain, so no Rolls Royce for us. But anyway, agree with the other comments about the precedent. I also worry about the side setback and the neighbor. I don't know how we would explain to that neighbor that we let that go by. And it is, I also drove up and down the street. It's a beautiful street, quite honestly, beautiful neighborhood. And I worry about setting this precedent and also that there are no other detached front-facing garages on the whole street or neighborhood. So I would not support this application.
While I'm sympathetic to your request, I see that precedent issues.
Can I have a motion to open the case to the public?
Yep, so moved.
Second? Second. Go ahead.
I think we would like to just pull the application, not have you vote yes or no, and
Very good.
walk away.
The application is withdrawn.
Knowledge, thank you.
Sure.
Yes?
Next up, we have calendar 39/18/23, so never mind, moving on from that one, that's carried to 10/16. I'm sorry? Yeah, so, getting out 20 Claremont Drive, Short Hills, if you're here on that application this evening, it will be carried to 10/16/23. That's 20 Claremont. Next up, we have calendar 39/26/23, 382 Wyoming Avenue, Ashtosh, Rathorn, but you can kill that one. So whatever part of that, let's move forward.
Why don't we swear you both in first?
Okay.
Both raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm testimony about to give in tonight's proceeding to be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Your name?
Ashtosh.
I'm sorry?
Ashtosh.
Okay.
Robert Emmerich Jr.,
Just spell the last name.
E-M-E-R-T.
Thank you.
Mr. Herman, what capacity will you speak this evening?
I'm an architect for the owner.
Great, let's qualify you before we start here.
Okay, licensed in New Jersey since 1995. I'm a member of the AIA, former president of the section. And I've been before this board several times, as well as Summit, Livingston, West Orange, Englewood, for other zoning matters.
Your qualifications are accepted, so please proceed.
Good evening. I'll just give some opening introductory remarks and then hand it over to the experts. So we are a family of four, a 13-year-old boy, a 9-year-old girl, my wife and myself. We've been in the town for about 10 years and expect to be here for the foreseeable future. My wife's very active in the school district. I'm very active as a rec coach, soccer, basketball, etc. Our need for construction that we bring before all of you is driven by giving some private space to a growing boy and a growing girl. And for a part of the year, our parents visit us. And so we just need some space, and this is why we are here. We've been very mindful of, at least from our perspective, of how we drew up the plan, taking neighbors into consideration, reviewing it with neighbors even before we finalized. With that, I'll hand over to Mr. Emmett to take you through the details.
Thank you.
Okay. Before I get into the variance, just a brief summary of what we're doing. It's an existing one-story structure, and
Sorry, real quick, is it the same thing that was submitted with the,
yes, it is.
it's just colored?
Yeah, Z1, 2, and Z3.
So Milk Girl 3 is A1, just because they're colorized a little different.
They are colorized, right, but that's the only difference. So, and the reason I included the front photo is so you can see the real distinction of this house. It's a one-story structure on Wyoming, and the significant number of the homes, including the three in this photo, are two-story structures. So in order to gain the additional space, and knowing from the very beginning that the existing house didn't comply with the setbacks, so we're going to go over the front, go over the top of the existing building with the goal of getting 3 bedrooms upstairs and 1 bedroom downstairs, which is, what you see in the plan. And as Ashu said, we, keeping in mind, on the right side, we've actually, on the first floor at least, tried to limit the number of openings. On the first floor, we actually reduced one. There's a side door going out to the area of steps for the trash and everything. We got rid of that. And so we reduced the openings on the side from 3 to 2. And then we only have the one opening on the first floor facing the left. And so again, the footprint on the first floor has not changed, just everything's reconfigured within the area. The deck is existing, the front steps are existing. So then the upstairs, we put 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms upstairs. And just in the elevation, again, with the idea of, we wanted to go, 2 stories actually makes it look better. It looks like, it's missing something. You drive down the streetscape and everything's 2 stories, and this is 1 story. But we did want to keep it fairly simple. We're going to have new siding, but with the roof lines, not going with a bunch of gables. We kept the hip roof, which is what the building has now. So we're going to keep the hip roof and just, keep it a very simple facade. So getting into the variances required, the first one is for the setbacks up to the 18-foot height, which is really just dealing with the existing building. The existing building's there. It doesn't, the pink lines or the dotted lines on your drawings, so the existing building already doesn't conform, and that's really what the first variance speaks to. So when we go on top with the second story, you can see where this line starts to taper in, and so that gets into the 0.3 or 0.33 per foot that we have to go in. But again, trying to keep, the roof pitch is nominal, 5 and 12. It's not a real steep roof. It's not a big gable roof. Again, trying to, keep it simple, keep it respectful to the neighbors. So that's the first couple of variances. Side yard setback, 30 feet, 35% required, 27.4. Again, that's existing conditions. And we are doing the same on the second floor, but it is existing on the first floor. And the permitted floor area, we went slightly over that in trying to get everything in. And I know, a 0.5% doesn't sound like much, but in this case, it's about 44, 45 feet. And if I'm sure you've just taken a look at the drawings. It's a nice, they're comfortable sized rooms, but there's nothing grand, nothing, again, we were just fitting things over the existing first floor footprint. And then the first floor front yard setback, again, just dealing, we are cantilevering out the back to gain some space, but on the front, it's just aligns with the existing first floor.
Speak to that balcony.
Pardon me?
Speak to that balcony on the second floor.
Well, we wanted to not go over, we were fighting to keep it under the 30% habitable floor area ratio. But as people today, you see more and more outdoor living, whether it's patios, whether it's decks, and in this case, we did.
Mostly plans, and when I made this request to the architect, I had gone and spoken with the neighbors. They have a grill there, and they happen to sit. It's an older couple, and they spend most of the summer sitting out there. And they were very sensitive with the window peeking out, where especially the lady sits. And so, if we had the space, save space somewhere, and not construct, my request to the architect was to do it on that side of the house.
So there's a means to get outdoor living space, but not make it habitable floor area. I think that goes through, that pretty much summarizes what I have to say. But again, well, no, I would just, so again, I will preface it, you know, it's a one-story house. So in its neighborhood, it's a very, you know, it's a tight living condition. I mean, 3 bedrooms on the first floor, you know, a small kitchen, you know, 2 baths on the first floor. But it's just, they needed more space. We needed to make it, you know, when we were doing this, the effort was to try to make it more appealing in the streetscape. Because again, seeing the squat one-story structure along Wyoming Avenue, the 2-story structure fits in much better.
So I'm concerned about that, the privacy of the neighbor with that deck up there. You're asking for a sizable side yard variance. And now you're gonna put a second floor deck staring over the neighbors.
Well, I mean, is there any difference if it's a deck or if it's windows? I mean, a deck is not gonna be, you know, if it was bedrooms back here, they'd be in there year round. I mean, this, you know, you're gonna be out here, you know, during the nicer months of the year.
I would argue there's a sizable difference between the windows and someone staying on top of the deck who's now 6 feet, head 6 feet above the floor.
Right, I'm just saying how often they're gonna be out there. I mean, you think of your own patio and your own deck. I mean, you know, there's certain times that you're out there, but it's not like you're out there all the time.
If I may, I want to make a distinction where we have a pretty large deck on the existing floor, and that's not going, and that's where we spend our time. This is meant more as a lounge space, is how my wife expected to use it, not as a sitting space.
Nice. So just on that point a little bit more, so you have a beautiful deck already, that's on the first floor.
Yes, ma'am.
And the purpose of this second floor balcony is,
So our neighbors are here, they'll speak to it when their chance comes, but we were trying to limit a window overlooking their house, that's number one. And 2, just keep a space for my wife to keep the plants. Right now, they're in one of the rooms and she'll just keep them there.
for the plants.
That's correct.
So the balcony is for plants?
Absolutely. We don't need to sit there. Our intention to sit is because the way we constructed the first floor is the kitchen will open into our main deck. That's our intention where we maintain as a sitting and recreational space.
And a greenhouse window would,
That'll be fine.
And what do you,
A greenhouse window is like, you want us to put a window there?
I mean, no, I don't, it's not up to, just a question.
what is your question? I didn't quite.
So
follow.
balcony versus greenhouse window, because a balcony, humans could possibly go out and possibly affect privacy of neighbors. Whereas a greenhouse window its plants are the goal.
I'm not understanding the technical difference, but.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I believe what you're speaking to is not building the deck and just doing some sort of deeper window type structure to put plants in or something.
Just seeing if there's another alternative besides the balcony,
Okay,
which might impact the privacy of neighbors.
okay.
Just a question.
So eliminate the deck up here and do some sort of enclosed, well, okay.
It's not up to me.
No, but I'm just want to follow up on your point. I mean, if we did something like that and it was a deep enough structure to accommodate plants, so let's say 12 or 18 inches deep, which is entirely different than what you're looking for, but would that then, would we be increasing the floor area ratio by that much if we bumped it up? Yeah, okay.
Well, it depends. If it's a hung window, you wouldn't.
What do you, I don't know what that is.
If you basically have like a window that's a hung, like, you know,
If we don't take it all the way down to the,
Bow
like a
hung
bay,
window,
a floating
you wouldn't.
bay.
If you put a floor under it, yeah, you're gonna increase your floor.
All right, so if
area.
it's a floating
If you have-
bay,
if
it's
you have
not.
a hung window, that's a, you know, like a bow window, then no, that would not increase your floor area ratio.
Okay.
But yeah, if you remove the wall out, sure. it would.
Can we have kind of just a slope and kill that entire structure and just have a slope so that it's inaccessible?
Well, I mean, you're talking about doing a roof?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do a roof. We can just get rid of the deck.
Yeah.
And
Make a
do,
roof.
if that, sure, you can do that. Just get rid of the deck and build a roof over there. And then we can explore, you know, what, you know, this back wall maybe becomes a window wall a floating bay off the back for the plants.
We don't intend to use that space for sitting, so we are okay with that.
All right.
Increase your floor area
You
ratio.
just have to be careful that doesn't, yeah, that, I don't 100% understand what you're talking about, but.
You said,
couldn't increase your floor area ratio.
Yes.
Exactly. No, we're saying the deck goes away and it's a roof over the first floor.
Right.
And that's, so it doesn't affect the floor area ratio at all.
But it sort of juts out. It's a slice out of the whole structure. The roof would still be okay. I mean, would that be a slanting roof for the rooms or how would that work?
No, just be like a torch down on top. Right?
No, we would, I mean, this is the rear elevation. And this is showing the dotted line, there, these group of lines represent the railing. So that is just gonna, just take the railing area, that would just be like a roof, just a shed roof sloping down towards you with the same, made out of the same materials. We'll try to do the same pitch here, because, you know, again, we're probably gonna want some windows up there, as you were suggesting, some plant bays, and so they would be suspended, but this would just be a roof. And the deck, you know, the second floor deck would go away entirely.
That would basically not require an FAR in that case.
It doesn't affect the FAR. The FAR stays just what it is.
So taking away the balcony does not affect the FAR increase.
What was the question?
So taking away the balcony doesn't decrease the FAR?
No.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification.
Any other questions from the board?
Just one small clarification, the lot coverage, it's existing non-conforming, right?
The coverage is conforming.
I thought it was not. I thought it was.
No, the lot coverage was 35%, existing is 38.6.
There's no-
We are not changing anything on the first floor. It's all existing, so it's 38.6 whether this project goes forward or not. It's, in fact, I mean, it's, you know, it doesn't really mean a lot, but we are taking the concrete stair landing on the side of the house away and that sidewalk. So we're actually going to be taking away, you know, 10, 12 feet of, you know, coverage. It's,
Why isn't that listed on the table?
what's that?
They're not doing anything to lot coverage.
Oh, they're not considered.
No.
Yes, I saw it there, but it's not on, that's not a
No.
variance.
It's on this other,
Yeah, it's on the table. Right. Any questions from the board further on this?
Just at the garage level, are there bedrooms down there now?
No.
No.
Two-car garage, and it's like utility area and an open playroom for the kids. But there's no bedrooms on the ground, on the basement.
Any questions from the audience regarding this application? Questions? only. Any comments from the audience? Do you have a question?
A comment.
Comment? Okay. Any comments from the audience? Come on up. We're going to swear you in.
Just raise your right hand. Do you swear from testimony you're about to give in this proceedings be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Your name and address of record, spelling your name, please.
Naomi, Naomi, Eisenberger, Eisenberger, 384 Wyoming Avenue. My husband and I have lived at 384 since 1969. And the only reason that we're probably sitting here tonight is because a long time ago, everybody sitting in that seat subdivided our property from the original. We're only the second owner, and the original owner subdivided the property so that she would have some money to live off of. She was 92 when we bought the house from her in 69. If there's anybody on the block who's going to be impacted by this, it's us. And yet, I would ask you to please consider this application. The good thing for us is that the side entry to the house, which sits about 6 feet from our kitchen, will be closed up so that we won't see anything on the first floor. The deck that you noted on the second floor, I would agree with your decision because that deck overlooks our deck. And anytime we would be on that deck, anybody out there would be overlooking us. But other than that, we couldn't ask for better neighbors. It's very hard to find a house in this town, you all know. And they'll only be enhancing the neighborhood. It's a single-story house stuck between two-story houses. So we have no objections.
Sir, your comment? Who's going to like?
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm testimony about and give tonight's proceedings to be the truth, whole truth, and but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Your name for the record and your address, spelling your name, please.
Yeah. First name Madhu, Madhu. Last name Raghunathan, Raghunathan. Address 388 Wyoming Avenue.
Where are your location to the house?
We are Jerry's neighbors, Jerry and Naomi's neighbors. We have not lived, 388. We have not lived there as long. We've been here for about 4 years. We ourselves have a 2-story house. We have exactly same family structure, 2 children, 1 in middle school, 1 in elementary. So we completely understand why they are doing this. We have no objections to this. It does not affect us because we are 2 houses removed, and I'm fully supportive of them doing this.
Thank you. Any other comments? Please come forward.
Do you swear or affirm testimony about to give in tonight's proceeding be the truth, whole truth, and but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Your name and address for the record, spelling your name.
Peggy with a Y, Grant, 378, Wyoming. We've only been in the house since November 2020, and we know them more than we know some of the people on the block. They're great neighbors. And actually, when I was driving down Wyoming, I moved from California. I was driving down Wyoming, and I was looking at all these gorgeous 2-story houses. And his house looked out of place on the street, and I always wondered who put that there. Anyway, they're great neighbors. We have no problem with what they're doing, and we appreciate the way they've handled it with the neighbors.
Thank you very much. Any other further comment?
I can't
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm testimony about to give in tonight's proceeding be the truth, whole truth, and but the truth?
Yes.
Your name and address for the record, spelling your name.
First name is Kyung, Kyung. Last name is Ha, Ha.
Address?
383 Wyoming Avenue. Right across from Ashur. I've been there since 1998. Wonderful neighbors, beautiful kids, beautiful dog. I have no objection. I think they do need a second floor for the kids. Yeah, I think so, yes. So yes, no objection, that's it.
Thank you so much. Any other comment? In that case, I will close the public portion of the hearing. Board members.
I'll just say, the last application, I brought up streetscape and, how important it is. And I'll say, driving up and down this street, you look at the streetscape and this house really does stand out. This house is definitely, in my opinion, calling for a second floor. I think that the plan is very tastefully done. I don't think that they're asking for too much. I don't think that it's going to be out of character at all. I think it's going to really enhance the neighborhood, and I could absolutely support the application with the change to the deck on the second floor. I do think that can be intrusive, and I prefer to see that with just a roof and closed up.
Then Jessica, any further comment?
It's wonderful to see so many neighbors show up and support. It's rarely the case.
Very rare.
I think the writing's on the wall. I think it's family needs, and clearly This is very tastefully done, and I think it takes away the steps that we talked about towards neighbor's home, and good luck with the project. Thank you.
Yeah, look, I agree with those comments. And when driving by, honestly, at first I thought that was a garage to the house next to it. So I think that making this two-story will enhance the streetscape and make it more consistent with the other homes on the street.
Whenever I see a violation of FAR, it always concerns me because you can always tell when a house is built with a FAR violation. It really does stand out. But I think in this case, it's done in a thoughtful manner. As much as I'd love to see the second floor step in more, it just would be very difficult to build a viable home, stepping in the sides to be somewhat more conforming or conforming. I'm happy to see that you're comfortable resolving the deck issue, as that would be a hard no for me. So with the current changes and in light of the thoughtful composure to this, I would support this application. Do I have a motion in this case?
Make a motion to approve.
A second?
I can second.
Chandra Bernardi,
Yes.
Amy Lawrence,
Yes.
Gary Rosen,
Yes.
Regina Truitt,
Yes.
Joseph Caulfield,
Yes.
Jessica Blank, Rick Whitman.
Yes. Good luck with the project.
Thank you.
Residents, I thank you for coming. Next up is calendar 39/31/23, 212 White Oak Ridge Road, William Ryan. You used to have to with employees. Anyway, how are you folks this evening?
We're not doing the Hatfield.
Just
the
Ryan.
You guys are just, everybody raise their right
Will.
hands. Do you swear from testimony about to give in tonight's proceeding be the truth, whole truth, and but the truth?
We do.
We do.
Your names for the record.
Donald Fiore.
William Ryan, 212 White Oak Ridge Road.
Diane Ryan, DIANA.
Who would like to start?
I think I get this.
Let's go to the credentials first and we'll go from there.
All right, my name is Donald Fiore. I'm a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey. I have a bachelor's of architecture from New Jersey Institute of Technology. I've been working in the town since '93. Partner of the firm since '97, and I'm now the owner of the firm.
And your credentials are currently in good standing? Your
Yes, it is.
license?
Yes.
And where's your practice currently?
508 Milburn Avenue.
Thank you. Your credentials are accepted.
Thank you.
Proceed.
Well, first, I'm sorry to see the neighbors go. I haven't seen that in a long time.
Love fest there.
The drawings that we have up here, these are the drawings that are in the application. Before I start, one correction on the cover sheet, just so you're aware of it, the list of drawings. At the final print, it called in the wrong list of drawings, so that is incorrect. The 3 sheets that are listed are correct. And in the package, dated 9/19/22. If I
9/19/22 is what this is dated now.
Yes,
correct?
yes,
Okay.
that is the correct drawing. What happened on the list of drawings,
Right.
it called in a version that we were working on at one point, and unfortunately, the Google Drive
Right.
in the computer,
Yeah. So you're going to be you'll submit that then as well. Use that as A1 then.
these are the drawings.
Oh, these are
Yes,
correct.
yes.
Okay.
I'm just saying that the list of drawings was the incorrect reference
Got
on
it.
there, so there was an inconsistency.
Okay, so we're all aligned then.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay. Okay, the project we're here to look at is a partial second floor addition on 212 White Oak Ridge Road, block 3606, lot 26.
This is a single-family residence owned by the Ryans. They've been in town for many, many years, raised their family. They are now at the point, they have an opportunity to start working on some improvements in the house and have been looking at a variety of projects. This is now a proposed, effectively, master suite built on the lower left-hand portion of this existing house. In terms of the property itself, it's in the existing R4 zone. There are a couple of pre-existing nonconformities which will remain or not part of this application, including the front yard pavement percentage, right side setback, and the right side setback to the second floor. It has kind of an odd condition when this house was built. It's sort of a little, when they did it originally, it's a little bit wider than it really probably should have been. Should have been a little bit deeper. So you'll see an odd roof condition on the right-hand side. For the project itself, on the left-hand side, the hatched area, we have two variances that we're talking about there. Left side yard setback. Left side yard setback to the second floor. Right now, the existing second floor line is in here on the right side of this hatch. That's 42.36 feet away from the property line. What is required is a 22-foot setback. We are at 19.61. For clarification, the 19.61 is the same as the existing lower floor setback. So we're basically taking that same wall and going up a partial story. Let's see. The other, in terms of combined side yard, the combined side yard right now is 29.94 feet. What's required, it's 35%. So at that point, let's see, just so I don't get lost here, we are at 29.4%. Again, that's an existing condition that will remain whether we do this project or not. Simply the left and right sides always had that deficiency.
And you're not making that worse, correct?
Correct. This is basically on the left-hand side, we are taking the lower level and literally going straight up with that wall.
How far would you say that is from the neighbor's house? Melissa?
To the left side? I did not get an accurate measurement this morning. I actually went there to get that. You should have approximately 15 feet on their side of the property, so the lawn. So right now, if you visit the property, you have the driveway. There's approximately 7 feet of, I want to say, dense landscaping. And it looks like, if I were estimating the property line, it looks like their lawn is going right to the property line. And I would have estimated approximately 15 feet. So I would say with that, as a guide, approximately 34 feet between the houses. The other interesting thing is this is actually the zone line. So the left-hand house is actually the R5 zone. So this is the first house within the R4. Okay. Looking at the second sheet, this is the second floor plan, and again, one other correction, this is a drafting error. That's the left side elevation. That's the side of the project that we are actually looking at. So my apologies for that, but it was titled incorrect.
All right, let's see, that's fine.
Yeah,
We'll make a note of it.
all right, so on the second floor, effectively the hatched areas, and I'll say from this line here, this is the end of the existing second floor. Right now, the space is an attic space under the roof above the west side of the first floor below. What we're doing is creating master suite in this area. In the house, essentially on the second floor, would have 4 bedrooms and an office. We're calling the office as an office/bedroom. We did put a closet in there just as it's a spare guest room. But the idea primarily for the project was the development of a full master suite. This is including sitting room, dressing room, master bath across the back of the house. And on the front, we would have the master bedroom set up with vaulted ceilings underneath the existing roof, or sorry, underneath the new roof. if I go to the third sheet, this is probably the one that explains the majority of the massing of the project. What you're seeing, this is the front and rear elevation. Lower plan front elevation is the one that probably tells most of the story. The the existing front elevation is entirely brick. What we're proposing right now is taking off the existing hip roof, raising it up 6 feet 8 inches, and essentially reframing the existing, or I'll say very similar hip roof construction, and working with a series of dormers across the front of the house. The idea for the dormers is aligning, to be aligned with the first floor plan so that there's a coordination between them. But the intent here was essentially to reduce the massing of the project. It's obviously on the lower side of the property. So we're bringing the plate height down to 6 feet 8 inches. And then within the roof itself would vault the ceiling. So though it's not as extreme, consider if you're trying to picture from the interior, the idea of the converted Cape second floor with the lower eaves, it's a version somewhat like that. We're taking it to a higher point, so there is not that head knocker. The idea here is actually to get the floor space for the master bedroom itself. As I said, the roof line is the same roof line. So same roof line that exists, just raised up 6 feet 8 inches. And the idea of the hip roof really does help reduce some of that massing, and especially on the left-hand side where you have the options of the gable roof, things of that nature. So this really does drop that impact to the left. And I think from the curb appeal, basically it's in keeping with the house itself.
What's your ridge drop from the like the larger portion of the house to the new addition?
This distance?
Yeah, that drop there.
I'm going to say approximately 2.5 feet.
2.5 feet drops down.
Yes. So the idea was the 6'8" was a number that it was trying to get it up high enough that we actually didn't have that head knocker situation where I'm saying like the converted Cape, but that we could get that massing down. Obviously, I mean, the easy answer here is we just take it all the way up and do it straight across and just make it one big continuation. It just seemed that the articulation's not there. The massing is getting a little bit extreme, and we're trying to scale down that curb appeal of it to make it a little bit more in keeping and try and respectfully maintain some of the openness and air for the neighbors, especially to the left. To the right, obviously, this is where I'm saying this odd roof condition. It was just a very awkward something that was built when the house was originally constructed.
If I may, we discovered many, many years ago when we actually bought the house that the house plans were actually sort of form plans that had been bought and used around the town by various builders.
And other towns.
And other towns. We actually made a project of going around town to locate the houses.
It's a little Learning Drive, the swear is the exact same.
Exactly.
Yeah, we've seen our house
We've
like in
seen our house.
Madison and around Hartshorne.
And our
right,
house,
yeah.
and the house was built on spec. So it was actually vacant from 79 until 83 when it was bought. So literally someone took plans and didn't actually talk to anybody about
They just kind of put up a house.
modification. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
So in terms of evaluating the project and some of the design and what we've been trying to consider, again, from the curb and especially to the left, we're also looking at this in terms of an FAR for the house, just to get a sense of it, because that's really for that massing and the density. Right now, the existing house is 16.22%. Permitted is 26%. This project would bring it up to 19.01%. So it's well below what would be the maximum on the FAR basis. So at that point, I'm just trying to consider that as sort of a benchmark to evaluate the project itself. Though not strictly applicable to this, where I was mentioning for the R5, as the immediate neighbor, being in the R5 zone, if in terms of maintaining neighborhoods and zoning, this is one happens to be in a situation where this side of the property would be consistent with what would be that neighbor and that zone. So in terms of impacts to the neighbor, within that neighborhood, this house actually does conform. I realize we're in an R4 and that's not a technical argument for it. I'm saying in terms of the nature of the neighborhood and maintaining reasonable separation in space, air for the neighborhood. On this side, that is actually consistent with that house and what they would normally expect for their neighbors and other neighbors to the left of the property. To the right, it's all the R4. Okay. At that point, in terms of the master plan, having the idea of protecting or providing adequate light, air, open space, establishing densities that contribute to the neighborhoods, providing desirable visual environments, good design and arrangement. These are things that we've been trying to address with the project, and especially the roof line and dropping that. But the building or the house is fairly simple in nature. So we are trying to bring that down to improve that in terms of the neighborhood, the application. In terms of the FAR, as I said, that just as a benchmark, the preference would have been that this house was deeper and narrower. That's, but this is the house that we are working with. We did look at alternate locations for the project, and one of them, basically the one that would avoid all variance situations, was effectively coming straight out the back of the house. It was one of the things that it had two effects. One, in terms of the kitchen that exists down here, we'd have to tear the ceiling out of the kitchen because the roof structure there is slightly higher than the second floor. So that's something that the impacts there are pretty extensive. But one of the nice parts about doing the straight air level, we have no increase in building coverage. We have no increase in improved coverage. So in terms of preserving, the land, the landscaping, we're not contributing to any of that. Basically, with this project, that storm drainage remains as it is. We had done a previous project, and we've done the storm drainage. And actually, with that system, we actually took the entire back of the house and accounted for the storm drainage. So it is something that we've been very considerate about. This one happens to not change that at all. So going to the back, effectively, that would be the substantial increase in building and improved coverage. And they're gonna have to come up with the first floor underneath this thing to fill out, because the bedroom suite is bigger than what would be the existing kitchen. So at that point, it really wasn't necessarily a benefit to the Ryans, and in terms of the project, this seemed to be the better of the solutions. So at that point, I do feel it enhances the requirements of the master plan in terms of detriments. I don't really see this having a substantial impact to any of the neighbors, the neighborhood. I think it's consistent. So if I took the neighborhood and the block as a whole, as I said in the photographs, the house to the left, very similar scale. It's just in the R5 zone. This happens to be the house. These two houses are the transitions between the two. So with that, I think I'd close my testimony.
Any questions from the board?
The question is, the house that you're talking about to the left, is that north towards Parsonage, or is that one towards Hartshorn?
That's towards Parsonage.
216.
216.
In the application, there are photographs of the house.
That was newly done, I think, recently done.
Yeah, they
Yes,
redid their house.
It was the Batias. They had actually
Yes, that was 216.
very good people.
Yeah,
We
they-
would, we
they were
still
very
wish they were in the
Only
house.
only
but-
one of you can speak at a time.
I'm so sorry. 216 was owned by the Batias. They actually did all the improvements on that house before they sold it.
One question. So just looking at the very, very back, and this is a nice modest ask, quite honestly, but Looks like part of the renovation includes removing the existing windows and installing a new door.
Mhm.
And that's so you can walk out onto.
They have, there's a flat roof that was done on their kitchen.
Okay,
The idea is, you know what, we've got the kitchen, we happen to, it was done with the railing system. It's above the finished second floor, like, so the roof line is higher than the second floor, so it'd be a step up. Not exactly easily usable or accessible for the second floor, but if they have access to the roof, they have access.
so that'll become a door out of this little balcony.
Yes.
And I didn't go in the back, so I did drive by it, but I didn't go in the back. Is that balcony new?
It was, that's the roof of the kitchen that was completed two, this year?
2022.
2022.
It was completed, it was started in 21.
So the balcony is,
Yes.
there wasn't a door there before that's part of your house.
No, this project, once the
The
kitchen
door
was,
is,
once,
This doesn't need a variance though.
yeah, just a question.
yeah, no, once the kitchen was completed, I think the experience went well enough that we suddenly got into, you know what, we're thinking about this other project, and it suddenly kicked into gear.
I can also just attest that when we were doing the kitchen, we were originally thinking, and this is just a bit of history, Don's firm actually drew up the original plans for our kitchen and for a bedroom in 2007, which we put on hold during the financial crisis and college and law school and all the other stuff. So, 15 years later, we're actually looking at this. The original plan had a vault in it, but when we looked at it, it honestly just didn't look right. So we figured we just wanted a flat roof just to continue with the rest of the house. And we just literally, after we were done, my wife and I were looking upstairs. There's a railing around it, and I said, "My God, you could have a balcony."
Right now, you have to climb out the bathroom window and break
To-
through the screen to get there.
To
So
get there.
it's
So it's-
completely
That's a
inaccessible now, but it's small, but it's
Makes
there,
sense.
you know?
Thanks.
Any other questions?
This application, going for a C1 or a C2 variance?
So C2.
C2?
Let the record show there's no one in the audience, so we'll refrain from asking comments and questions from the audience. Anything further from the board? Any testimony further from you guys?
No.
In that case, I'll close the public portion of the meeting. Board members, what's your thoughts?
Let's get started. It's a very modest ask. I did drive by and I thought it fits, honestly, to fill in that missing. Thank you. I would be in support of this.
I like the way you designed the front. I think that, by lowering the ridge and then using those two sort of dormer style of windows, lowering the plate, it really does make a difference in the overall scale, because the house perceives to be 3 floors above ground on that side.
It does.
Even though it's the basement, the way it was done, it has that look. So this is nice that it actually sort of brings down the level a little bit from the scale of the street. I really don't see it being imposing on the neighbors. I think they're far enough away that that's a privacy issue isn't a problem. So I would support this application. Under C2 variances, as mentioned.
Actually, following on Craig's, the fact that you're eating into seems to be eating to the attic space above that to even keep that roof lower, that's you were trying to make this work, which means a lot.
I would agree with both folks before me, and the slope, the grade slopes downward to the house when you're looking at the house from front to the left.
Yes.
And so by doing that, I appreciate it also because it looks more in line and conforming to what is the state of the neighborhood.
Any other comments? In that case, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. A second?
I can second.
Thank you, Judge.
Chandru Harvani,
Yes.
Amy Lawrence,
Yes.
Gary Rosen,
Yes.
Regina Truitt,
Yes.
Joseph Caulfield,
Yes.
Jessica Blatt.
Yes.
Yes. Good luck with the project.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
all very much.
And have a good night.
Get home just ahead of the rain.
Let the record show there's no one in the audience for further comment, so can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Have a good evening.
Is this the house that does
I have no idea.
I think